Hi, my name is Adrienne Wilson. I'm with IdeateTV, and here with me is Desireena.
Hi, Adrian.
Hi. Desireena, we're here at the LA Asian Pacific Film Festival, and you have an amazing documentary here.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the film is called Because of You, A History of Kilawin Kolektibo. And it's about a queer group of Filipinx women back in New York City in the 90s. I was a part of that group, and during that time, we filmed all of our activities and marches and protests. And 25, 30 years later, we've made a film about it. So it's myself and my co-director, Barbara Malaran, were both members, and we created this film out of all this archival material.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What a wonderful story.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask just straight off the bat, why 30 years later?
That's a good question. You know, life happens. When we were filming all of these actions, it wasn't like we had something in mind.
Sure.
It was just documentation and like learning how to be filmmakers back in the day. The group like fizzled after about 5 years. People went on their way. Like Barbie moved to Portland. A lot of people moved to the Philippines. I found a job. Like the activist part of us kind of,
Okay.
we all moved on.
Sure.
And then, like maybe 15 years later, the pandemic happened. There was some interest historically about what happened in New York City. So Filipino American National Historical Society came calling, and they were like, we heard that this group Kilawin existed back in the 90s. We really want to talk about the history of Filipino activism in New York City. Can you come and talk to us?
Oh, wow.
And so during that time when we had this group, we also had someone who was taking all these photographs, Panday Banale, and she had all these amazing photographs. And I showed that as a part of a PowerPoint, and at the Filipino American National Historical Society, and there was so much interest. People were just really like the chat was lighting up.
That was a spark.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, like I also have footage. My friend Barb has all this footage. We need to make this film.
Wow.
And there was a second reason for making the film at that point. Like Barb and I were very close. We were like best of friends, and we had a falling out. So we hadn't really talked for a long
Oh.
time. And it was a time in my life where I wanted to reconnect again. And the film was a way for me to reconnect with her. So Panday kind of reconnected us.
Yeah.
And we reconciled through this film. And it's actually part of the film.
My heart just
So-
like skipped a beat when you
Really?
were like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah.
Like those are real stakes.
Yeah. So like it's about the film. It's about the group kind of moving away from each other, but also it's about my personal relationship to Barb,
Sure.
and how we came back together. And
And you were a filmmaker from before this, right?
well, in the 90s, we were in our 20s. We were learning how to be filmmakers.
I see.
I went on to do public television work for a show called In the Life, and I've done a lot of like activist work since. But yeah, it all started in my 20s.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah. So
For somebody who has never heard of the, I guess, of all the activism in New York City, what's a message that you would want them to walk away with after watching this film?
it's very interesting because we've been showing this film a lot, and we did show it to a hometown crowd in Brooklyn, and of mostly young queer Filipinx
Sure. Yeah,
people,
they don't
and they
know.
were just amazed that there was this history, because they
Yeah.
were like, "Oh my God, we're going through this history right now, and I
Wow.
can't believe, you showed us our lives on screen." So, I think that the message I want people to take away from this film is that, you're not alone. Like all these struggles that you're going through, everyone's gone through it before, and this is kind of like a blueprint of what you're gonna live through.
Sure.
And like the other message is that don't keep documenting what you're going through,
Yeah.
and do something with it. Don't put it away,
Right.
and not look at it again. Like
Well, have you noticed any differences between when you were the most active in the 90s and versus like what the community now is going through?
I mean, I think back then, it was really before the internet, before social media. If you look at the footage, if you watch the movie, you never see anyone with their phones. Usually at actions now,
Yeah.
everyone's filming it.
Sure.
Right? But back then, it was more like you were in the moment. You were experiencing it. like firsthand, as opposed to looking through a lens, and like thinking about how it's going to be interpreted on social media. So it was very different. So, and I think it was easier to be out there because you weren't like at home looking at a screen, and like
Yeah.
feeling like you were interacting with people, like
Right.
virtually.
And
Like,
just to give extra context, what kind of things were you protesting about in the 90s?
back in the 90s, and it still happens today, right? The mail order bride phenomenon,
Sure.
where white men would look through books of
Yeah.
Asian women and pick out their bride,
Yeah.
and then the bride would come to them, and there were a lot of abuses around that. So we protested, like abuse against mail order brides, like against Filipino women who were being trafficked. Really,
Of course.
there was a film back then called Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. I don't know if you've
I've heard of it. Yes.
anyway, there's a scene there where there's like a Filipino mail order bride, and she's been turned into this villain, and she's like, I don't know, it's just really offensive. And when my friends and I went to see that film as part of the group, we were really excited because it was a queer film, and we wanted to see it as members of the queer community. But it was so racist
Oh my
against
gosh.
Filipino women, and no one was talking about it. And so those are the kind of things that we were protesting, like
Yeah.
the objectification of brown women, of Asian women, and like the fact that there was a lot of racism in queer community back then. Like we would go into a lesbian bar and people would look at us like, you don't belong here.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So back then, I think people would think that you have to choose between being queer or being Filipino, and it was like a novel idea to accept both of those identities and be comfortable in both identities. So that was something that we kind of embraced as a group. So we created our own. We felt marginalized both in the queer community and in the Filipino community. So we kind of created home for ourselves.
Got it.
And that's what the film is about, really.
I mean, especially with such a large amount of content, like what you must have gone through, like some kind of emotional journey, like revisiting all of this. Like, what was it like for you?
I mean, it was emotional also because of, it was like an actual reconciliation with my friend Barb, like during the making of the film. And then in terms of picking what footage to use, we had like hours and hours of footage, a lot of it unusable. You can imagine, like
Okay,
people just
sure.
like, it was like home movies.
Yeah.
But we kind of decided on a context. So we looked at it kind of as a relationship, falling in love, and then becoming estranged, and then coming back together and forgiving. So that was how we kind of arranged the story.
I love that it has a good
So it's like,
ending.
I love you, I hate you, I forgive you, are the
Yeah.
three parts to the film. So
Oh, that's wonderful. How did you start even approaching it? Like with all of the footage and everything? Like, you already knew that you kind of had an idea of what story you wanted to tell, but like those choices along the way?
yeah, I mean, I think in terms of trying to get into the story, like it actually became like a science fiction film, in a way that we kind of, how do we go back to the past? So
Yeah.
Barbie, my co-director, devised this kind of method of riding in a car, but shot from a 360 camera, so it looks like a spaceship.
Okay.
So she's literally like going back in time in this capsule in the film. So that's how we kind of came, like from the present, we went back to the past with that device.
That's so cool. That's super fun.
Yeah. So there's elements of like experimental narrative. There's sections where there's what we call tone poems in the film, which kind of express the feeling of being there at the time without hitting someone over the head. So
Sure.
it's not super literal, but
Yeah.
we hope that it conveys like what we were feeling at the time. So
Awesome. So,
Yeah.
with your personal journey as a filmmaker, where does this story fit in? Like, is this what's the through line between all the projects and work that you produce?
Yeah, I'm a documentary filmmaker, so I cut my teeth in like, kind of sit down interviews with B-roll. Like I did television. I worked for In the Life for a long time, where we told queer story. Like, news. It was a news magazine show, but like around queer issues. So this was very different for me. Kind of like throwing out all the rules of filmmaking.
Oh, wow.
Like Barb is someone who's very experimental and very visual. So she really like helped me kind of get out of my own skin and be uncomfortable and, like figure out how to tell a story like a lot more visually, a lot more experimentally. But at the same time, while she was like more concerned with imagery, I was more concerned with a narrative. So creating A to B to C to D, like in terms of telling the story. I still wanted to tell a story that was cohesive. So that was it was really a nice collaboration. Like we kind of got back into the driver's seat. We all had our roles, and it felt really good to reconnect with her, because I used to make little projects with her. This is our longest project to date, but we were creative collaborators before this, so it was really amazing to get back to that.
Sure.
And it's like two directors versus one. It's
Right.
half as hard.
Will she be here with you for this festival
No,
as well?
she's in Portland. She couldn't make it.
Oh, I
so,
see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. Des, can you just tell our viewers where they can find you online and keep up with your journey?
Yeah, our film, we have a website. It's kilawinfilm.com. It's KILAWIN film.com, Kilawin. And we're also going to be streaming on OTV, Open Television, starting June 5th. So just find us on Open Television.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to meet
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Adrienne.